Diana, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi. Thanks for having me.
So, you are everywhere at the moment, it feels like. You are creating tabletop content on a bunch of different channels. You're actually here in Australia for PAX at the time that we're recording this right now. So, I've got to know before we get into the actual interview content here, what have you tried Australian snack wise so far?
Oh, okay. So, preface real fast. I have been to Australia before, so I tried Vegemite the wrong way before. This time, basically upon hitting the ground, Madaloon, who we're staying with and kind of touring around with, handed us Vegemite with a layer of butter, which, from what I understand, is supposed to be a buffer, so it doesn't actually directly hit your tongue. Because, my God, it is like I get it. I respect your guys' culture. I personally wouldn't choose it, but it's a lot better with the butter. So that wasn't bad. Tim Tams, of course, the classic. Haven't done the Tim Tam Slam yet, I'm ashamed to say, but I'll get there eventually. You guys also have an obscene amount of chips and other related snacks that are flavored like chicken, which is wild to me. You guys actually have chickens, right? You just
No,
like
we
the
just
flavor
we
so
just have
much.
chips. So we have chips only. We don't have chickens. Just chicken flavored chips. Is that not a thing in the US? No chicken flavored chips.
If we do have them, it's like a seasonal thing that Lay's our parent company that is the same as your guys' is under a different name. We have them as like chicken taco flavors for 2 months only or something like that. Barbecue chicken maybe, but usually it's at closest barbecue chips in general.
What are like the standard chip flavors in the US? So this is not the topic of the interview,
Ooh.
but I need to know now. Like, what's your top three?
My personal top three: salt and vinegar, which apparently you guys love as well. I had salt and vinegar fries. Oh my god, so good. We have a lot of sour cream and onion, and we
Mhm.
have a lot of cheese flavors. So things like
Cheese.
sour cream and cheese, sour cream and cheddar is very popular.
Oh wow. So I'd say
You guys
ours are
don't have
like
cheese chips?
we have cheese chips, but I think they're probably like tier three quality in terms of like the S ranking of chips. I feel like our top tier is your salt and vinegar, your chicken, and like your original. You go to a kid's birthday party, they'll all be on the table. Those three options.
And you don't have the bright fluorescent orange of the cheddar and sour cream chips. That is wild to me.
Yeah, we have a cheese chip, but it comes in a yellow packet, is what it is.
Mm,
Okay, well, I got to go to
very
your
tasty.
PAX now and try some of these chips.
I apologize in
Um,
advance. Yeah.
so I think a few recommendations for you. I'd suggest a caramello koala is a really good one to try.
Yeah.
So it's like a little chocolate treat. It's got caramel in the on the inside. Very good. It's got a cartoon koala on the front. So you'll be in Melbourne for PAX. So
Yeah.
you should get a doner kebab or a souvlaki. That should be that.
Okay. Whoa.
That's a massive like Melbourne experience. Go and get some late night meat. There's a place in
I've had that a
Northcote.
couple times in my life in different contexts, but yeah.
I don't know what she's talking about, Diana. There's a place in Northcote called Lambs that does really good souvlaki that I'd recommend. And then another big thing, like Melbourne culture specifically, like fish and chips. Obviously, you would know about fish and chips. Um,
Yeah.
but we're big on charcoal chicken in Melbourne. That's a thing we really like. More chicken for you. And there's a place called Rooster Bar in Fairfield that I would highly recommend for you. I'm giving you a huge list of stuff to do, so you're not going to be able to do all this. Obviously, just pick a couple
Hey,
of
I'll
things.
try it.
Yes.
I'll do it or die trying.
Okay, I'm stoked you've tried a fair bit of stuff already, though. So that's really cool. Maybe I can spring some of this stuff on you at PAX if I bump into you
Please
at
do.
some
I'll
point.
trade you in Mike and Ike's or something. The candy that we have.
But I always like to start these chats that I have by hearing how it all started for you, basically, getting your origin story. So, how did you find yourself getting into the world of tabletop games?
Oh, it's very much a quick on ramp from being a video game enjoyer to being a tabletop game enjoyer. Once you realize that it's just video games but without world borders, it's a quick uptake. Back when I was a kid, I played a lot of God. It would have been Minecraft back in the day, and then kind of moving into Skyrim as my first ever console game. And then after that, I had made a bunch of internet friends. People who lived out in it would have been like a different part of Oregon at the time, San Francisco, Colorado, all that. And at one point, we were all hanging out on Discord and talking about Dungeons and Dragons. And they all knew what it was already. And they were like, Diana, do you want to come join? And I was like, it sounds nerdy. I'm in. And so they sent over a PDF that was definitely pirated, at the time, and told me to read it. I tried that. Didn't work. Then they said to try, watching like a YouTube video on how to create a character and just jump into it from there. And then, the rest is history. We played for maybe like 2 sessions. Honestly, that campaign died pretty quickly. But then I spent the next 10 years immediately getting behind the DM screen a little bit and just world building for absolutely no one. I wasn't DMing for anyone because no one I knew in my real world life, that I was going to high school with played D&D. But I still built out a world. And then to this day, that's the world that I run my campaigns and one-shots and things like that in. And then the content creation side of it kind of just came in during the pandemic. It was one of those things where everyone who's a content creator nowadays, especially in the wake of Vine, became a TikToker around the pandemic because we were all locked inside and had nothing better to do. So I just started making videos, and now I'm here in Australia.
Talking a little bit about content now. So I always do a deep dive on everyone's content before I have a chat with anyone. And one interesting thing about your content that I feel is like quite different than a lot of other folks out there is that every one of the channels for you feels unique. It doesn't feel like I'm getting the same offering in every single place, which is super different than most other people. And in some ways, from like a research perspective, it can be hard to kind of figure out which one of these is Diana's main thing in some ways. So I guess my question for you is, do you have a main thing? Is there a main channel, or is everything the main thing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, TikTok will always kind of be my main, only because the app itself is very intuitive and very easy to use. I still, even if I'm not posting a video on TikTok, I'll still film in the app just because it's so much easier to film little clips, review them, delete them if I need to, and rewrite over them. It is true. I have different content on all my platforms. I do that intentionally because I want to make sure that people have a reason to follow everywhere else. Otherwise, it's just the same stuff rehashed. So, Instagram obviously has photos. Most photo content I won't put on TikTok at all. Even if it's a carousel, I'll leave it completely off because no one wants to see that on TikTok. It's not the vibe of the place. Instagram will occasionally have a lot more stories as well. I don't really use TikTok stories. YouTube has obviously exclusive long-form content, exclusive short-form content. And then Facebook is the only place that I don't run ads. And that's not a please go to Facebook thing. That's a Facebook will not let me disclose the ads because their system, something about it breaks my app. Yeah, I don't know. I try and post most things everywhere, and then everywhere has a little bit of extra something.
Yeah, and it feels like very impactful when you look at it as like an audience member. It's like, oh, this is different than the other channels. Like Instagram is not just all the TikToks in real format. Like I'm getting some meaningful static image content in here as well, which feels like, yeah, absolutely different than a lot of other people out there who are mostly just cross-posting on all the different channels. So I'm curious, how do you manage creating content on so many different channels? And we'll get into this as well. You also have a day job at the same time as doing all of this.
Yeah, 2 full-time jobs, 3 if you count streaming, but that's not really full-time. Mostly by working myself to death. It's not a healthy relationship, and I will never purport it to be. I also have the capacity, thankfully, very thankful about this, to work remote. And so that's, down in Australia right now, for example, you and I were talking about this before we started. I'm working, little bits and pieces on my day job on my laptop, and they thankfully let me. And so it's very easy if I need to just stretch, take a break, go over to my kitchen, grab some tea, then I will take a moment, film a quick video, and then post it and then call it good. So it's a lot of just kind of like filming in little gaps. And a big part of it is also the fact that I don't have a lot of post-production, and I don't put a lot of, I'm not going to say I don't put a lot of effort into my videos, but really that is it. I don't put a lot of effort into my videos. It's me talking really quickly, and I'm able to put out a video across all platforms in maybe 20 minutes tops. Thankfully, being a talking head for a lot of my stuff makes it easy to put out a lot of stuff.
I think to describe it as not a lot of effort is probably underselling your content a little bit. It's like maybe it doesn't have a lot of extra post-production bells and whistles and things like that on there. But I'm going to talk about some of my favorite videos that you make in a little bit. And I always come away with like, this is such a well-conceived idea. This is such a good concept that's coming through to me here. But back to the day job thing, just to touch on that quickly, because I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that you still do have a day job, considering the size of a lot of your channels. Are people surprised to hear that when you let them know?
Oh yeah, all the time. And I try and make it clear whenever I'm doing panels that have to do with content creation specifically, or doing workshops to kind of help people become content creators, in the tabletop space or otherwise, that it doesn't make the money people think it does. And if it does, people are selling their souls to make it happen. And honestly, it's the case with most content creators. I think people don't realize how many of their favorite content creators also have day jobs, or how many of their favorite content creators have side hustles. Almost everyone you see, especially in our space, isn't just a tabletop creator. They're also an author. They also have a Patreon. That's all separate. A lot of them are doing, waitressing work on the side. They do DoorDash, whatever they need to do. Quinn Hardy, I'm going to throw his name out here because we've met exactly twice, so I feel comfortable doing so. He's one of the biggest, most recognizable TikTokers, not in the tabletop space, but he just does, the occasional thirst trap, just yapping. He's a very likable persona. And he's the social media manager for a different YouTube channel. Like, he has a day job as well. And he's got millions and millions of followers. People are surprised, but I also feel like we need to normalize it, that they shouldn't be surprised, because that kind of brings content creation down from this dream job where you can retire early and play video games for a living, down to what it actually is. And I want to make sure that it's realistic when people think of it.
But let's jump into some of your videos that I really like. So some of the stuff that I enjoy most of yours is your short form content where you're giving out tips on DMing and stuff like that. So just want to pick your brain. I've got 3 videos that I really like. So I'm just going to ask you about them. Then, well, I'm not even going to ask you about them. I'm just going to throw the videos out and then you just tell me about them basically, and I'll ask you some follow-ups. So a recent one that I really enjoyed, I saw Andy from Margot Mods talking about this on Threads as well. It's your tip about telling players what their character's feeling. So things like your heart races or your breath catches. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that one? What is the tip and why is it important?
Yeah, the general tip is that the DM should be remembering that they are in control of everything that the players are not in control of. A lot of times DMs think of that in terms of the world, the different creatures, the NPCs, the environment, the weather, but that means you also do have a control over the player's automatic nervous systems, the player character's nervous systems and their reactions to things. So saying that someone's, skin begins to prickle up into goosebumps involuntarily, that's involuntary. They can't control that. That means you get to control that. And especially when it comes to horror games, you can really dial up the notch on that and start to make your player characters sweat, and then make your players sweat by consequence. It's a tool that does a couple of things. It reinforces the horror. It reinforces the fact that the players don't have a sense of control, especially when it's their own bodies that they no longer have control over. And then it also kind of helps the players get into the vibe, into the mood of the environment by telling them straight up, hey, your heart is racing right now. You are borderline having a panic attack. Within reason, of course. It kind of like starts to creep into the safety tools territory of not having control of your own body. So you want to make sure your party's cool with that. But it's a horror thing that I feel like doesn't come across incredibly well in other forms of media. You can't do that in a video game. You can't do that in a movie, but a tabletop game would be perfect for that, for telling someone how they feel.
It's so interesting in that horror context, right? Because like I find it can be hard to scare people in a tabletop game when you're sitting around the table. But quite often I've found instead of like trying to jump scare people and trying to really shock people, if I just say, you feel scared right now and you're not sure why, what's going through your mind, it is like, oh, okay, I'm scared. I should be scared. And then you can start moving people in the direction that you want them to be in, so that when you do start pulling these things that should be scary, they're in the right headspace to be scared and to role play being scared.
Exactly.
Is that the same as what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. You're priming them to feel what their player character is feeling, especially not knowing the source of it yet. It's the same vibe as like DMing a certain player in the party who has the highest passive perception, if we're talking about D&D, and saying, hey, you feel watched right now. And then just letting that happen and letting that play out and watching their panic seep in, not through you, but through them as the player talking to everyone else at the table, being like, guys, I feel watched. I don't know what's happening. That is so good. It's instilling panic, it's instilling horror, and it's getting people really to feel their characters.
Then there's another one where you've given a life hack for DMs when they're doing a fight with like a boss monster, for example, one creature against an entire party to help out with the action economy. So talk me through this tip.
Yeah, I had it so that, and this is something that I took from a friend ages ago. He recommended that when you have a single creature that is fighting against a party of player characters, usually as written in D&D, the action economy is very strongly working against that creature. You know, you have this creature who goes once and then the rest of the party goes 5 or 6 times, some of them with multi-attacks, some of them with spells, and then it goes back around again. The creature that you're having them fight has one turn, and then it's another 5 or 6 against it. It's being used as a punching bag. And legendary reactions and legendary actions can help counteract this a little bit, but people forget that at lower levels, you don't have legendary actions, you don't have legendary reactions. And so, especially for lower level encounters where it's one big creature versus the rest of the party, it can be helpful to roll 2 initiatives for that creature and have it go twice or even 3 times in the order. It completely upends what player characters believe about combat. It makes them rethink their strategy. It makes them, kind of like question whether or not they want to use certain abilities that might not last as long because they don't know what's going to happen when its turn comes back around again a second time in the round. And it, yeah, just in general kind of adds a bit of balance and makes it so you don't have to always have dozens of stat blocks to keep track of over the course of a single encounter.
Because yeah, it should be fun. It should feel fun. It should feel like, oh wow, we're up against it here, basically. And that's a part of stories, in my view. So this one isn't a tip, but I just needed to ask what the go was here, basically. So you have a video where you show off your giant DM screen that is bigger than you.
Yeah.
Why is the screen so big? What's in there? Tell me all about it.
So this is a fun little peek behind the curtain. Actually, I have what's known as OCPD. It's obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and it basically makes it so that I need to have total control over things. I think it's perfect for being a GM. It's perfect for my day job, and it works great when it comes to things like following rules. Making sure that I'm providing the best experience for my players. But it also means that I need to know all of the rules, and so I wanted to have them all in front of me. Having all of the rules for DMing in front of you means a lot of real estate. And so I ended up making this giant DM screen only so that I didn't have to leave anything out and I wouldn't have to flip through the book. By the way, guess how many times I've actually used that DM screen and actually referenced a rule on it?
Zero.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, it's mostly for decor. But it was also, I think, the biggest take home from that DM screen was the fact that I made it out of dollar store materials. And at least for me, back in the day when I built it, I was in early high school. I didn't have any money of my own, and I grew up in a relatively poor situation. Buying the actual DM guide, buying the player's handbook, buying any sort of materials, terrain, minis, all of that, that was totally out of the question. Going to the dollar store every once in a while was, though. And so, while doing pickups for school projects, I would just grab a little bit of poster board, a little bit of duct tape, and then made what I could using what I had. And that was the end result, was something that I still carry around with me to this day and move from house to house. And it's honestly held up pretty well.
I'm surprised to hear that because when you unfold it in the video, the pieces of it start
A
falling.
bunch of papers did fall out. That was, yeah. There's also the most comments I get on that video still to this day when it pops up every now and then and enters the rotation on Instagram, are people talking about the dog in the background that gets scared and like starts dashing away from it. I feel so bad. That was Penny, poor girl.
So the OCPD, is that what you say? Gosh, do I have that as well? Because I feel the exact same way of needing mega control of everything, creating all kinds of things, and then barely looking at them because it's just already locked in my mind by creating it, basically.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. It's the most popular, not most popular. It's not a fun thing. It's the most common disorder in the world. Essentially, it's an anxiety disorder. So.
Wow, there
But
you
I feel like
go.
more people have it than they maybe think they do. It's good in some things. It makes you a workaholic, though. My God.
Yeah. Well, hey, this is stuff I'm going through in therapy at the moment, Diana. So we maybe I'll raise this next time. But hey, those are the videos I wanted to touch on. So I like to finish up these chats with some recurring questions that I ask everyone. First question: you actually made a video on this kind of recently. Can you take me back to the first ever character you created in a tabletop game?
Yeah, back when my internet friends from Minecraft invited me to play D&D for the first time, I dove right into the druid class and I created at the time, half elf character, no, fully elf actually, an elven character named Araphine Lyodel. And I believe I still have her original paperwork and her original stat blocks and everything, her original character sheet. She was just this almost, instead of being kind of the classic tree hugger druid who lives out in the wilderness, she was raised more in high nobility, high society, and a trading family that was the injection of wealth from other cities into her little elven society, kind of, bringing in gems and jewelry and all that to fuel the upper class. And so her family was wealthy, and then she discovered this, druidic talent and decided, I think I'm going to go live in the woods somewhere. I actually brought her back for not an actual play, but a home game a little while ago that ended up fizzling out. And so I had redone her backstory, expanded it from like 3 pages to like 14, created a whole. I commissioned Toby.exe, amazing character artist, to do full body character art for her and gave her some new life. So that was a nice little throwback. It was fun to play her again.
Second question, what is your most controversial tabletop games opinion?
Oh, okay. This is because I play a lot of survival games and I'm a huge fan of realism and following the rules and things like that. I track ammo, I track encumbrance, and I track rations and food. I don't do it in like an asshole way where I tell player characters that they need to remember to eat and, check in every couple hours in game. I just make it so that they mark it off every now and then. But for me personally, I think it's fun for certain game types, hardcore games, you could say, but also just games where you want your player characters to feel the impact of worldwide events. So, for example, if there's a famine happening, your player characters should start to have trouble finding the rations that they need to keep going. It also makes it so that certain player characters' abilities, like the ranger's ability to go foraging and druid's ability to create food, those become more valuable and not so much just kind of set off to the side and forgotten. I really like tracking those things. Again, I just like the rules and sticking to them though. And if my player characters tell me, "Hey, I'm not doing that," then that's fine. We don't have to do it.
You'll just track it for yourself behind the scenes.
Right.
It's funny because if you listen to Sounds Like Adventure, our actual play show, I'm like the most hand wavy DM of all time. I'm constantly hand waving details to keep us moving. But like secretly, I think that is super interesting what you just discussed there. Like the idea to me of like, you're at the bottom of the dungeon, you just found this awesome loot, but hey, you guys have been picking up loot the whole time here. So I guess you're going to have to choose what you leave behind. What are you going to choose? I think that is such an interesting quandary to play out at the table when people have to make a decision around leaving stuff behind about, oh, what do I do? I've run out of ammo in this situation. I can't shoot any more arrows. I think there is so much interesting narrative in that. Is that why you like to track it, or you just like the rules?
Both, honestly. The rules were the genesis of it, but at the same time, it's that quandary of running out of ammunition and then having an onus to suddenly learn how to make your own ammunition. And then from there, that's when you have the opportunity to be like, hey, you found this really cool material. You think it might make a really weird arrow, and then making it so that they all of a sudden have all these new capabilities that they wouldn't have had if they never thought about the fact that they might run out of normal ammo at some point. It's stuff like that. And for what it's worth, I also give them a bag of holding really early on for the encumbrance thing. I'm not an asshole, but yeah.
No, of course not. And then final question, when you think back to your time spent around the table over the years playing tabletop games, do you have a favorite story or a favorite memory?
Ooh, that is a tough question. I've done so much stuff. It's been wild. I will say one of my favorite moments as a DM was this one time I was playing Curse of Strahd, or running Curse of Strahd, and I had added some extra side quests into the village of Barovia, for those who are familiar, where there were zombies taking over the town slowly due to tainted water. Was something that my players eventually decided to investigate, but not super strongly. They were just passing by. They happened to notice a well, and they kind of looked down into it. One of the player characters immediately takes a running jump and decides to dive into the well. It's the well had zombies at the bottom. It was 60 feet down. It was pitch black. The next thing everyone else heard was a crunch, and then he immediately dropped to 0 hit points because he was level 3 at the time. And I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" So many times he kept saying yes. Then everyone heard the crunch, and then he was like, actually, I'm not sure I want to jump down this well, because no one could have helped him. It was too far down. So eventually I was like, yeah, you have this sudden intrusive thought of jumping down the well. You feel your bones start to like almost cringe up a little bit, your muscles tighten, a little bit of passing rigor mortis almost, and then you blink and you're standing outside the well again, still peering down in. You get the sense you should probably back away from the well. And he goes, "Yep, got it. Message received." And they leave. They never actually figured out what happened in that town because the source of it was in the well. They just, if they couldn't jump down, then they decided it wasn't worth their time instead of finding a safe way down. And so if they had returned to Barovia, they would have found it entirely taken over by zombies.
That is hilarious.
At the moment, it was it was really funny.
How many more wells did they jump down after that as well? I'm sure they learned a lesson pretty quickly.
I removed the rest of the wells. I was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. You guys, I'm either giving you a feather token or we're just, the water supply is infinite and magical. You know, I'll invent aqueducts before I put you guys through this again.
Gosh, that is so funny. I fully expected you to be like, no, they learned their lesson. They never jump down a well ever again. But you were just like, I'm pulling all wells out of this universe.
You guys can't be trusted with water supplies anymore.
Yeah, we need a new water system for this universe, for this. Awesome. Diana, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. For anyone who is following along and would like to find out more from you, where should they go?
Oh gosh, anywhere. I am at Diana the Rose on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, where I stream 3 times a week. I am also on Facebook. That is my actual account. I just don't check it that much, to be honest, because it's Facebook. But I am also one of 2 hosts of the Worlds Apart podcast. So at Worlds Apart TTRPG is where you can find that. It's quite literally just me and my friend Odie, another Australian, world building completely off the dome. It's a very loosey-goosey podcast, and it's available in both video and audio formats as convenient. And then beyond that, I will be all over the world. PAX Australia, of course, this weekend at the time of recording is the big one. And then after that is TwitchCon. I will have maybe a day and a half to get accustomed to the time change when I land back home before going there. And then I will be at PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia at the end of the year. So that's all for 2025.
Wow, busy. And before we do wrap up, what are you getting up to at PAX Australia this year? Anything people should be looking out for you at?
Yeah. So the PAX Australia team has been super amazing. As soon as they heard I was coming, they set me up with a meet and greet on Saturday, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And I'm doing a couple different panels, I believe, on Saturday and Sunday. One is a GMing panel with Madaloon, Kiki, James, all these friends of ours. AJ Winters, I believe, is going to be there as well. Zach Speaks Giant. So we're going to be giving people top DM advice. And then on Sunday is Fight or Flirt, which is a charity event happening in the Generosity Theater, where I am going to be one of several player characters in a Castleton-style world, for those who are familiar with AJ's work, and kind of doing my best to either fight or flirt my way to the top. We'll see what happens.
Love that. Friends of the show on all of those panels as well. So really exciting to see. But Diana, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and I'll see you at PAX.
Yeah, I'll see you there. Thanks for having me.